Renee, I've been waiting for this day for a while to have you on the show. I have been watching you from afar in your career, and I think you have so many golden nuggets to share with our audience today about your career path. And I'm just excited to have you here. So, welcome, Renee McKenney, to Dominate Your Day.
Thank you, Dana. I'm so excited to be with you. And as you know, we have a long history together. So
Yes.
it's really fun to just be able to reconnect with you.
Yeah, and here at Dominate Your Day, we're all about helping difference makers make an impact. And
Mhm.
as I've watched you grow in your career over the last 25 years, from being single to getting married to having kids to working at Southwest and Disney and Dallas, and
Yeah,
now you're the president, right, of Visit Tulsa, right? Is
that's,
that
that's
yeah?
right.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, gosh, tell the audience your story, how you maneuvered yourself and built your authentic brand as you were making these leaps of faith into different roles.
Yes. Thank you. I will say what was really for me is I was always wanting to be in this industry. I think if you are in hospitality in general, whether it's on an airline, I started my career on a cruise ship. So it was I wanted to be Julie McCoy for those who remember the Love Boat.
Oh
That
yeah.
was my dream job.
Oh yeah.
And so, I've always surrounded myself with wanting to be in hospitality, serving people, making people feel good. I mean, that has always been my driver. And so, through my career, I think, Southwest and Disney and the cultures of those brands really impacted me so much. And so, as I kind of have gone through all the different journey of, where I am today, I feel like it's just taking all of those angles and all of those lessons learned and being able to put them into practice and hopefully bringing on a new generation and really a succession of that.
So you had probably some mentors along your pathway. Do you
Yeah.
recall, like, as you were getting into your career and then when you transitioned, saying, that was a brave thing to say, you know what? I've done as much as I can do here at Southwest. I'm ready to go do something else. That
Mhm.
all the moves you've made, and some of them were probably really easy to make and some were really hard to think
Yeah.
through. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I will say starting on a cruise ship was the scariest thing I've ever done. I was right out of college and didn't know a soul, and I lived on board a ship for a year. And that was, literally you had to figure it out because I had never served a meal. I had never been in a position of, I had to serve 3 meals a day, clean 8 cabins a day, serve cocktail hour and all that. But I think you start there, and then everything else sort of was easier from
Yeah.
that because I literally jumped in, not knowing what I was doing. But I will say Southwest was in that at that place and time. We were kind of the underdog, and no one really knew much about Southwest or the culture. So we were championing that together, and I think as a group of 20-year-olds that, I would say, we were all sort of cheering each other on. That was one of the most incredible time in my career because I go back to that and y'all are still my friends to this day and my mentors to this day to have Herb and Colleen trust us in a way that no one, they just empowered us to do that. So I would say those are big lessons. And then I followed, there are people through my destination hospitality career that I call some of my dearest friends. Cassandra Mate, who runs the Orlando Convention and Visitors Bureau. I mean, she and I worked together at Visit Dallas. She believed in me. And to this day and decades later, she's my first call. Like, how
Mm,
did you do this? Now I'm leading a destination. How did you do it?
mm,
Um, but all those people along the way, I think keeping them close
mm,
and just knowing we don't have it all figured out. Like
mm.
you're learning every single day in this business.
Absolutely. And I think it can get lonely, right? When you're starting
Mhm.
something new and you don't have that, it can get so safe in a community like even a Southwest or maybe even a Visit Dallas or a Disney. But it's kind of like, what was that yearning that kind of you kept saying, okay, I'm made for more. What can I do next? What can I do next? Where does that come from, do you think?
Well, I will say my mother was in this industry and I lost her years ago, but I feel her presence and she was in the travel industry. So I think the yearning was as a woman and a professional, like she was in this business in the 70s and 80s. And you just didn't, you could only go so far. It was like,
Mhm.
okay, if you're doing really well, maybe the few broke out, but very few women were in the C-suite, and I think I had that drive early on because I wanted to do what she couldn't,
Mhm.
and so that was one of my drivers. The other was just it does get lonely because it's typically an industry where people would kind of get to that role of leadership, but they just didn't surround themselves with their tribe. And I have always felt like I didn't want to do it alone. And
Mhm.
so that broke the mold a lot. I think that, we now, and I'm so thankful for the next generation, is that they do have that.
Mhm.
And so we sort of had to carve it out. I know you were one of those people in my camp that
Uh,
we got together and we talked a lot. Like, how did you
mhm.
do it? And I think being vulnerable is really so important of saying, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
And with that comes a lot of grace and a lot of people saying, you know what, I didn't either, and here's what I did. And you gotta be a risk taker.
I like how I'm looking at your strengths. So we talk about Clifton strengths on the show, especially when our guests have taken their strengths. And I'm
Yeah.
not surprised by yours. Number one is responsibility. So it's like when you say you're going to do something, you do it. And futuristic. So futuristics always sees a vision of where they're going, kind of
Hmm.
has a vision out there. But I remember stories that you've told way back when. I think we're in high school. Didn't you create something in high school that
I
wasn't there
did. I can't believe you remember that.
I
Yes,
remember this story about you. I was like, "Wow, she just saw
yeah,
a need and filled it." So tell the audience what you did when you were in high school.
that is so funny. So I started a drill team at my high school. And I go back to the whole Title IX thing. There was our high school is almost, it is over 100 years old now. But the roles for girls were if you were a soccer player, a tennis player, a track star, or one of five cheerleaders, you had a role in the high school. And the band only had 10 people. And so I wanted to be, I laugh. This was the era of the 80s, Flash Dance and Footloose and all of that. I wanted to start a drill team. And we ended up galvanizing the community and figuring out how to get the story told. And it is now, I will say, I'm so proud of that drill team. It is, they just win national championships all the time. And girls start at, kids that want to be on the drill team. And it's the Highland Bells. And I'm so proud of them. But, 40 years later, they're doing
There you
great.
are. You just never know. It's like looking around. There's a good lesson in that, Renee. It's like looking around and saying, here's a need. How can
Mhm.
we fill this need? And you just bravely created the opportunity for yourself and for others. And now I've got like a 9-year-old granddaughter going in the same school district, and she just looks up to those girls.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
It's like, look what Renee started. I told my daughter that this morning. She was cracking up. She goes, really? I said, yes, Renee started that. But what we know with your strengths is they've been with you since you were a child. So it's what gives us energy. And it's that
Yeah.
looking at, well, why don't we have a dance? Why don't let's create one? And
Yeah.
there was that strategic that came in. You probably learned how to do it, learned what other schools were doing. You got people around you. And then you kind of have this amazing relator talent, which is having deep relationships like we've had for over 30 years, having deep relationships with people that you
Mhm.
continue to have. So, how have you seen that particular example in your high school
Yeah.
manifest itself now in your career?
Well, I what was interesting, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
With the drill team, we tapped our PE teacher and said, "Can you be our sponsor?" Well, it turns out she was a Kilgore Rangerette. It turns out she was big time into leadership skills and holding us accountable and discipline. And to this
Wow.
day, those things, that accidental, tap on the shoulder, she instilled things in me in leadership that I use to this day. And her name is Kathy Wheat, and to this day, she's still a mentor. I love visiting with her. But those skills need to translate in everything that you do. So you talked about futuristic. Right now, I'm trying to build a convention center hotel in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The need is that it will change the game. It will be transformative, but you have to see it, and then all the reasons why people are going to tell you it can't happen. You have to navigate that and say, well, how do we do this? And then you have to build advocacy. So the skill of that is that you might have a vision, but you can't win or lose alone ever.
Mhm.
And, I will say I started going into those hard conversations and making sure that I met with people that were for and against it and
Mm,
listened to them
mm.
and really build a listening tour to know then my talking points.
That is amazing. But look how it happened way back in those lessons in leadership
Hmm.
from your PE teacher way back when. And we
Yeah.
never know who we have made an impact on, that's been in our path. And, I love how you talk about her and how she's made this impact. I have seen nothing but Tulsa come out since you've gotten there, girl. I'm like, wait, Tulsa King came out
Yeah.
at the same
Yeah.
time, right? And then there's been a lot of things happen in Tulsa.
Yeah.
So how have you created that branding and that marketing around your city, that's, a town in Oklahoma that some people had never heard of before?
You know what was really fun for me and this is that when I came here, I didn't know much about Tulsa. And so when a search firm said, "Hey, this position is opened up, would you like to throw your name in the hat?" I did my homework and I came here my husband and I got in the car. It's 4 hours away from Dallas and said, "Let's go explore on our own." What I understood when I got here very quickly is that this is the largest city on tribal land.
Oh, wow.
And, so you've got three nations here that are really telling their story in a unique way, and they're all unique. So I really was fascinated by that and the story and the history of being the oil capital of the world, the history of Route 66 and the Centennial, the history of the tribes. And then I was like, this is so cool. My learning side that we talked about
Mhm.
was I couldn't get enough of it. Like, tell
Mm,
me more. And what I uncovered was a city that is very rich in history, from Black Wall Street and all of the things that come with that, from the pioneers and the cowboys and the natives. And it's a beautiful fabric that comes with a really rich and storied history, good and bad. And so from there, I just thought I want to be a part of this and making sure that we take it into the next century. Like, how can we grow what's really special? And
mm.
that has been so fun for me. I'm passionate about the people here, and I think when you take that on, it becomes a life of its own.
I hear a lot of lessons through your career, through even starting in high school and then at Southwest, just learning just to be empowered. Sounds like you've been empowered to kind of go out there and figure it out and build community and create this vision of what this could be for Tulsa. What have been your biggest lessons since coming there,
I
as a leader or just,
Yeah, I I think that one thing I there's a lot of really strong women in Tulsa. I learned that very quickly, and we just elected our first African American mayor, and he is young and he is very dynamic. So a lot of the lessons were kind of looking at the history, very generational here, people that have been here for 4 generations, 5 generations.
Mhm.
Um, but that being said, is kind of looking at it from the lens of where I came from
Mm,
and trying to introduce, well, this is what Austin looked like when I was in college, and look at Austin now. This is what Dallas was like 10 and 20 years ago, and this is what is possible. So that's been really fun for me. And the lessons learned is, just learn and listen,
mhm,
and then take into what you know and thread that through. And I
mm,
know how to build a convention hotel. I
mm,
know how to build advocacy and not be afraid of that, because you're going to get a lot of no's and you're going to
mm,
get a lot of naysayers.
mhm,
And you have to see past that, and not get discouraged by that.
mm.
And talk to people before you meet them. Like, I sit with city council before I need to ask them for a favor. And know my districts here. It's a very political job
Mhm,
in that, I'm part of the chamber, and
mm.
I'm part of a fabric of, city council, county commissioners, mayor's office, lieutenant governor, governor. Like, there's so many legislative things that I have to navigate that I didn't know much about. And so coming to a state that I didn't know their legislative process, but it's been a continual learning process of, having wins and losses and learning from my losses.
And I think that's a powerful thing in being an authentic leader, because we talk about authenticity a lot here and how
Mm-hmm.
we're so much more energized when we're just being ourselves and not trying to be somebody else. And you learned that probably a long time ago with stepping out and trying new things and being empowered, but being able to fail. Oh, you know what? That didn't work. Or yes, we're getting this pushback, but we're going to keep going forward. How did you learn that? Where did that come from? I'm looking at your strengths, and I think there's a lot, responsibility. Number one, if I say I'm going to build a convention center, I'm going to build a convention center.
Yes.
If I say I'm going to connect with people, I'm going to connect. But the trick, I guess, not the trick, but the key insight here is doing it authentically, and not that
Mm-hmm.
people go, wow, that Renee, I really know her and I know what she's about. And you can just feel it, right? You can feel it when people walk in the room. So how when you came into Tulsa and you came in from a different city and you had to get to know everybody, I love your story about getting to know them all. But then you've got to lead a team, a new team that you haven't led before.
Mm-hmm.
How did you do that authentically? What were some of the things that you focused on so that they saw your true Renee self and not just another leader coming in?
Well, I think, Dana, I go back to Southwest, and it was, I use that all the time in my toolkit. Is that we just said we're going to have fun. We're going to take our job really, really seriously, but we're going
Mhm.
to have fun. So I tried to bring a sense of fun, and Disney taught me that too. That's authentic. If you are that kind of leader, I could never be a leader that wasn't laughing and smiling and having fun every day,
Mhm.
because that's not where I should be. And
Mhm.
I've had those jobs, that are very serious, and they don't fit with me at all.
Mhm.
Because you can do good things and be responsible, but do it in a way that feels right for you. Our team, I inherited a team, so I didn't hire anybody right when I got here. And, I think I just shared, I am this kind of leader, and this is how we're going to do business. We are going to, build a foundation around this, but sometimes it's well received and you have to make hard changes. But the team that we have is very much a fun, spirited culture, and welcoming. They have each other's backs. Like, I'm so proud of that. And even this week, I had a team member that is leaving us to go on to a great opportunity, and I felt so excited for him as an individual to have that kind of breakthrough. And
Mm,
and I told him, I was like, it's all those things you did around this team that are getting you to the next level. And I
mm,
wanted to champion that fact that he's growing because of this team.
mm.
And that's, to me, I like, it's bittersweet, but you want to be able to guide your team in a way that they succeed in their goals.
Well, and so you learned a lot about culture at Southwest, and then you bringing it wherever you go. But I think so many leaders are relying on their company to create the culture when actually it's up to the leader to create the culture.
Hmm.
So some of the things that you did in the very beginning when you got there was talking about having fun and doing some. So what are some culture kind of things you've been doing to build culture within your organization?
We spend time together. We go to lunch together. We're part of the chamber, and what's unique about us is our chamber and our tourism side didn't always work together. And
Mm,
for me, I was like, I'd much rather have a bigger team than us being on two sides of the fence. And the chamber is typically very corporate and buttoned up, and we're more. I was like, we're going to be this fun side.
mhm,
And what's fun is to see they're meshing together now. Like we've got this team that, we are all working together. We're shared services now together, and they volunteer all the chamber side on our side, and we are doing the same. So culture wise, is that we have the things like the tickets to the baseball games and the events that are happening and the festivals, and making sure that we're including everyone on that. Uh,
mm,
and that's been fun. I would also say Savvy Tulsa is a new website we just started as our ambassador program, and we wanted to be 100% compliant of Savvy Tulsa, but it was a way to go to all of our stakeholders, whether it was the tribes or restaurateurs or our attractions community, and say, how do we work together and create a volunteer ambassador program together? And that just launched. So those have been activities that have really included everybody in the community.
I'm hearing a trend here or a theme here from your early days is innovating new things and creating new things that didn't exist before and
Hmm.
then helping nurse them and nurture them. Most leaders get in and they want to make change really quick. And you're 3 years in and you're able to sit now and look back. And I always say it takes 3 years, for
For sure.
a
Yes.
garden to grow or anything. We
Yeah.
can't, we can't, we can't hurry up everybody to grow. But what has been one of your most favorite experiences in this 3 years since you've been nurturing and growing and building and cultivating a team? Was there one experience that's just coming out and you're like, oh my gosh, I could repeat that again? That was so fun. Or is it, I know it's all fun, but is there been
Yeah.
one thing that kind of went, wow, even when you were telling the story about the young man that's going to be moving on, you had kind of tears in your eyes.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, no, you just
Yeah.
had that, like, emotion, like, I'm so proud of him, and
Hmm.
that's what a leader is. So, any other key kind of things that kind of stand out for you in this 3 years, even as
Yeah.
you had to deal with difficult no's and moving on and trying to get things going?
Well, I have two, but I'm going to tell you one real briefly and one that's
Okay.
ongoing, my favorite. So we have the Arkansas River, we dammed it up, and we had a big dam party. Total Southwest thing, right? So, um,
Great.
but we had a party that really was about celebrating our new waterfront. So Zinc Lake, and that was so meaningful because the mayor's grandfather was mayor, and they had started the idea of a lake 50 years ago, and we brought it to life. So that was super special, and we made it fun.
Oh,
Um, my other story that's ongoing that I could not be more excited about is almost a year and a half ago, we got a phone call that in The Outsiders is required reading. It's a book that S.E. Hinton wrote as a 15-year-old who failed English woman, and it's required reading in schools. A movie was made in the 80s that created the Brat Pack. So you had Tom Cruise and Rob Lowe and Matt Dillon and all those, Diane Lane. And that was made in the 80s. And then Angelina Jolie wanted to produce a musical because her daughter, Vivian, really was moved by the book and the musical. So we got behind it. It's a Tulsa story. It's about the have and have nots, and we got behind it. It made it to Broadway. It won the Tony Award for Best Musical last
whoa.
year. But Angelina Jolie and that cast came here, and Experience Tulsa, and we showed it off to them. They rewrote and re-workshopped that musical to have a sense of place. So it's on Broadway,
Wow.
and it is launching its national tour in Tulsa in October.
Oh, wow.
And it is also going all around the country with the national tour. But we were a part of that, and it was so special. The Outsiders Museum is here, but it's like when you think about, we could have taken that phone call and been like, we don't produce musicals,
Yeah.
but we said we can help you and we can pull together those pieces. And now we're a part of that family on Broadway, and now that family is going around the country to tell a Tulsa story, and
Wow.
I just love that. So
Wow. You definitely are legacy making. Just the things you're doing. And what would you want on your I know I'm throwing this out at you, but what would you want on your epitaph? I mean, when you think about your 85th, 90th birthday and all your friends and family are there, what is it you're building towards? Because I know you've got futuristic, so I can talk this way to you. Those of my buddies that don't have futuristic go, I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow.
no,
But the ones that have futuristic go, well, I want them to say this, and that something
yeah,
might come out. But you're building towards something that is it's out there, it's in your vision. What is that you want to make sure that you do with your
oh
life as a
gosh,
leader, as a mom? You've got two sons, you've
I
got
know.
a lot going on.
Well, we talked about family. I said, everything you do has to be the right thing for your family at the time, and everything is timing. But, and I feel like my family, we've always been about, building something. I love to say I'm a builder. I
You
just like
are.
to build. Not like I can see things, and I want to make sure I leave things better.
Mm,
I hope that, like what the Bells did for 40 years, is hopefully encouraged women to have a family and a stewardship that they grow together, and
mm,
I think that what I feel now, and what I felt in every job, is that those relationships matter. They carry with you decade upon decade. Those friendships, and we learn it together. Like we
mm.
cut our teeth on all these things, but we can look back on Southwest Airlines. I can look back on Visit Dallas. I can look back on what I'm doing now in Tulsa, and so many lessons that I learned through Disney. But the legacy is just leaving it better,
Mhm,
whatever that looks like to you.
mhm.
Don't come in and take a paycheck.
Yeah.
That's not why I'm here. I'm not here to just come here and just be status quo. And I've told, when they hired me, my boss, Mike Neal, and the chamber, I said, I'm not going to be your status quo leader. Like,
Mhm,
I'm a disruptor. You
mhm.
have to be okay with that. But that's what gives me fuel every day, is that I can say I did that and I
And that's
helped.
yeah, and that's your empowerment word too, is you've been empowered to go and make a difference and build something new that didn't even exist. And so I want to challenge all of our listeners out there. What do you see around you that has a need? And what is the need that you can do to fill it? Even if it's going to a whole different town, taking a bold move like you and
Yeah.
going to a whole town that you've never been to before and
Mhm.
just saying, I see the vision here. I see an opportunity and I want to make a difference. So I love that, Renee. Thank you for that. As we close out, when you think about these leaders listening that want to make a difference, and maybe they're stuck, maybe they're in the right place, but they've lived past their what they're capable. They need to go to the next thing. What is your advice, or what is something that's coming up for you now that maybe I didn't ask you, that was some advice that you think would be good for people out there, ready to make an impact, ready to make a difference like you have?
I will say, find people around you that encourage you.
Mm,
And for me, my relationship with God and my prayers and all that, whatever works
mm,
for you, is get outside of that voice in your head that says you can't.
mhm.
Don't listen to that. If you feel this, drive, you have to figure out, okay, who are the people that I need to surround myself with that are going to encourage me to do it, because it's hard, and we all have self-doubt. We all have imposter syndrome. I have it every day
Mhm.
where I'm like, okay, I can't believe I'm going to get up and ask city council to do this when I don't even know how to do it.
Mhm.
But it's finding that strength, and I would say, don't, if you want to go to the next level, don't let people tell you you can't. You know,
Oh, amen, sister.
I mean,
Yes.
don't. And I
Yeah.
had bosses along the way that
Mhm.
some said I couldn't, some said they saw it in me. And the people that I talk to this day are the ones that said, you should be leading a city. Why
Mhm.
not? And how can I help you? And the best advice I can give is to do the same for others, is say, how can I help you? What are your dreams?
Mhm.
Because I had those people, thankfully, that pushed me when I didn't think I could push myself. And I'll say my husband is number one.
Isn't
He
that
is
great?
always like, you, what's holding you back? And
Mm.
I was like, I don't know. Like, is it this? Is it that? Or the self doubt would creep in.
Mhm.
Just push through that.
I love that advice. Having those people around you that encourage you, that push you to be that next best version of yourself. And I see you so energized and excited and making a difference. Are you just in your sweet spot right now? It sounds like you really are.
It's, this job kind of brought everything together. And
Mm,
what I want to tell all your listeners, you will have moments and you will have chapters that are really, really hard,
mm,
really, really hard. But there is light on the other side if you keep with what your goals are.
mm.
And I think that when I got here, it just felt like everything came together, and it was the right timing for our family, and everything just feels right.
And that's the thing. I was talking to a leader the other day, and she was trying to decide if she was going to make a move. And she said, "It just doesn't feel right." I said, "Do not do it. You have to, it's got to feel something inside of you and those
Yes.
people around you. And if it doesn't feel right, it's not the right time. And just don't push it. Right. And
Hmm.
then the right time will come. And this is what you get. You get this authentic self in an environment where everything feels right. So even though there's going to be tough days and there's going to be seasons, there's no perfect day, but it's living through that. But Renee, this has been so fun. It's been so fun to hear
I
your
just
story.
love visiting with you.
This
And
is
like you
so
said,
fun.
you are one of those people that I always am inspired by. You are
Oh,
one of those people. And so thank you for
Renee.
that.
Well, thank you for your talents and thank you for using them to change the world and be a builder and a future thinking leader and mom and wife and all those combined. So I just can't wait to see what's next for you in Tulsa. It's just been amazing to watch. So congratulations.
Well, come visit me.
I'm going to. I'm going to. Okay, I was born in Ardmore, so I'm not too far from there.
Oh, that's why. It's the whole
Yes,
Oklahoma. I love my
yes,
Oklahoma people.
yes.
Yes.
Only in Texas since I was 10, but
Yeah.
who was there in Oklahoma? So all good. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today and
Thank
best to
you.
you. We're so excited for you.
Thank you. It's so